Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dixon, and today I've got Madhav Ayygari on the podcast. He is the co-founder and CEO of Inductive Robotics. They are an EV charging robot company that essentially allows you to charge your electric vehicle in any parking lot that has their robot stationed in it, as opposed to having to pull up to an EV charging station. This robot will come find your car in the parking lot and charge it while you're at your apartment or at a place of business. So pretty interesting. They're very early stage. They've got a prototype developed. They went through an accelerator program, which we dig into a lot, and kind of understanding the support that the accelerator provided them, both from a capital perspective, but also from a thought leadership and opening doors that they may not have been able to get into. So super fascinating episode. So let's get Madhav on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Madhav, thank you for being a guest on the pod. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you, Justin. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess, why don't we jump in here, give the audience a little bit of an overview of who you are and where you are and what you're up to right now.
Sounds good. My name is Madhav Ayygari. I am the co-founder and CEO of Inductive Robotics. We are an early stage robotics and AI startup based here in Austin, Texas. We build fully autonomous EV charging robots that can charge your EV anywhere in the parking lot. Essentially, you don't need to go find an EV charging spot. You just go park anywhere in the parking lot. And you plug in our smart adapter. The robot will find your car, charge your car, and by the time you come back, you'll have your car which is juiced up. So it's as simple as that. And I'm I'm one of the co-founders, and my CTO Dave, he lives in Seattle, where our hardware lab is also located. But yeah, that's a brief background about me and what I do right now.
Yeah, interesting. So if I understand correctly, so if I park in a normal parking lot and I've got an EV, I plug in some type of adapter, and that adapter communicates with your charging robot, and then that charging robot finds my car and plugs in by itself and charges it while I'm shopping or doing whatever, and then I come back and it's fully charged.
Exactly. Yeah. So this mainly, I think, is ideal for workplace scenarios, long-term airport parking, or like an apartment where you spend a ton of time where your car is just parked for a while. So what we do is we have a docking station which also acts as a battery, which is charging throughout the day, and we then take that energy and dump that at high speed into your car. And since you're there for a long time, the robot can go charge one car. There's another robot which then charges the same car if it needs more energy, and can keep going back and forth. So
got it. Yeah. So essentially, the robot has a battery on it.
Exactly.
That it's charging at its docking station, and then drives to wherever you're parked and all of that stuff. Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Before we get into too deep in kind of the tech, because I'm kind of curious how it all works and stuff, but where are you guys in kind of the life cycle of the business, right? You've been, I guess, when did you start it, and where are you guys right now?
Sure. So we got started, like, I think November 2023, when we first started working together, I and Dave, and we went through an accelerator in Austin called Antler. They're a famous VC firm here in Austin. They run accelerators in Austin, New York, and Boulder. So they've been our first kind of believers, where we were part of their spring 2024 cohort, and they wrote us our first check in May last year, and that's where we kind of jump started and built a prototype very quickly in 90 days. Did a demo at a conference in Austin, actually, the Move conference last year, and yeah, since then we have a few customers who are interested. So we are working on doing a pilot with one of them right now, and yeah, right now we are in the middle of a fundraise as well. So if there's more interest, happy to share more details.
Got it. So you said you've got this, you've got a robotic or kind of development kind of site up in Seattle.
Yeah,
And so what are they doing up there? Are they actually doing the prototyping, building the first kind
yeah,
of go
yeah,
to
yeah.
market? Okay.
Yeah, so the prototype was entirely built here by my co-founder, and yeah, we have a few contractors who do the navigation and the autonomy piece of the robot, and on the electrical side. But essentially, we yeah uh, bought like a robotic kind of base, and then we installed the other things on it, like the battery, the robotic arm, and then we kind of did the software layer on top to add fully like the to add autonomy to kind of figure out how to find the car. So it has lidar sensors,
Mm,
cameras, and we also besides that built the adapter, which is like a think of it. I don't know if you have a Tesla, but when I used to have a Tesla, I bought a CCS adapter wherein it lets you go to a non-Tesla site and still charge. So ours is
okay.
similar. We built that, and yeah, we tested it on a Tesla, we tested it on a hybrid and different things. But our lab there, it has a parking lot, which is sort of like a testing facility, so to
Right.
speak. So yeah, we take the robot down and test it there. Yeah,
And I guess, people don't park straight in parking
yeah,
spots
yeah,
and all that
yeah.
stuff. Like, how big is the robot? Like, what are the parameters? I guess so. If I'm parked at even an apartment complex that I want to have this robot come over, do I have to have an empty spot next to me? Like, how much space is needed to kind of get in between the cars? Just kind of curious, kind of how it would work.
Yeah. So typically, you don't need a space empty besides your car. So what happens is like we look at aisle width,
Mm,
like behind your car. We look at how big the aisle is.
okay.
So the robot just parks itself behind the car, and then the arm kind of extends from the robot, and then it reaches the port via the adapter, and then charges the car. So um, you so one limitation now we have right now is we ask the car to be parked with the charging port towards the aisle. That way, it's easier for the robot to kind of extend its arm and charge the car. The robot itself is not. I mean, it weighs close to like 500 pounds, but
Wow.
it's not as big as like a car itself. So it's what it can do is it can navigate the aisle within the parking lot, go behind the car, extend its arm, charge your car, and then go back to the next. So ideally, you're just looking at one parking space kind of dimensions
Yeah.
where it would go, and the docking station itself also sits in an empty kind of parking spot. So typically, what we've seen is there are many spots within the lot which are unused and the corner spaces. So we use those to put the docking station and plan to use that to house the robot, the charger, and everything.
And then is there some type of app on your phone to kind of set up a time to, like, hey, I'm going to be back at home at 6 o'clock, charge my car whenever. And obviously, is this some apartment complexes have, the normal docking stations where you can go plug your car in, and sometimes they're free or low cost. Is this something that you think, depending on who is purchasing the robot, will you charge usage to the customer, or will you be more B2B, kind of charging the apartment complex or the employer if they're putting it into an employee parking lot?
Yeah, we see the model more as like B2B to begin
Okay.
with, because the problem we are essentially solving is for parking operators and fleet managers who don't want to kind of spend a ton of capex or take a leap of faith on spending a ton of money in installing EV charging, like digging up, trenching, like adding chargers on the wall, which where they've told us is like not a good ROI for their investment. So
Okay.
one, they're very hesitant to do it because they don't own the parking lot. A real estate company owns it. They
Yep.
want to see clear ROI, which they don't right now because the utilization is very low. Most of the charging spots are like empty, and even if someone parks there, it's hard to get them out. So you need some kind of time limit and all of that. So the parking operators essentially looking for ways to deploy EV charging at a very low cost, and same for fleets. What we are giving them is that flexibility by offering like a monthly subscription for deploying these units and fully operating them, and they are free to charge customers how much ever they want,
Mm.
and they get to keep the upside from that. So they would just pay us for operating the fleet of robots, or like maybe two in this case, in their parking lot. The the other question about the app, yeah, like we will have a end consumer app which is mainly used to set preferences, like customer saying that, hey, I generally like this. I only need this much charge because I'm here only for X hours, or things like that. This is my typical pattern,
Right.
and also like an app where we track. The app would be used to kind of track subscription, right? Like, okay, I have this adapter with me which is tied to you, and which lives in your car. So mainly, kind of the logistics around getting that to you, if you need to get replaced, how to get replaced, and things like that. But the goal is to make the process so simple that you just plug in the adapter, and everything else works.
Got it. How
Yeah.
did you guys come up with this idea? Like, obviously, it's. I'm curious about the Antler accelerator program. Like, how did you come up with the idea, and then how did you kind of get into Antler, and what was that process like as you went through their program?
Yeah. So I think like mainly when I used to have a Model Y, I used to live in an apartment and we didn't have any charging back then. This was
Mm.
back in California, but I would go to the supercharger, and mainly I was interested in looking for ways where is there any mobility to this where the charger comes to you as opposed to you going. Essentially, my car is sitting at my apartment and for a long time, and maybe when I go to work or school, it's sitting there. Can it get just charged without me doing anything? And yeah, that's where it started. And when I talked to my co-founder, whose background is in robotics, he worked
Mm.
for 9 years at Amazon Robotics, and we found this. We felt like, yeah, we can solve this with robotics, and we saw that there are currently companies like Spark Charge, which raising very successful, raised a ton of capital, and they're doing it manually. They have a big van with batteries, and you they go to a fleet and they charge a car and then move to the next car and keep doing that. So we thought like, okay, can we remove the human out of the loop, at least in this way, partially? The only thing you have to do is plug in the adapter, and then the rest the robot can do it. It's much better throughput and much more efficient. So that's how we thought of it, and that's how we designed the robot. We initially thought it would be like a Roomba
Yeah.
style thing which goes under your car, but that didn't work out because like mainly the car needs to have the receiver,
Mm.
and it needs to have the capability to kind of have that charging. That's where the name came from, inductive charging. But we thought that you don't want to be beholden to a manufacturer's kind of life cycle, which is often very long in the case of OEMs, the car manufacturers. So we went with this other way. Let's find a solution that works for today, cars today, and then we can obviously change in the future. So Antler, the way the uh, the way the program works is yeah, I think we got connected to one of the partners here in the Austin office, and yeah, mainly they just interview you, like they just want to talk to you initially, kind of understand, and if they feel like this is something that would add value to their portfolio, they would ask you to come to their accelerator, which is I think 10 weeks long,
Okay.
uh, happens in spring and in the fall, whereas they are trying to build a cohort of many different companies, and they are a generalist fund, so they focus on like many things. It's like pharma to robotics, AI, energy, everything, right? And obviously there's a lot of AI now, but they make this group cohort of startup founders, and it's a group of like either you have a co-founder already and you have an idea and you're trying to work on it, and the other side of it is, yeah, you're a solo, you go there solo and you find the co-founder in the as
Mm.
part of this, and you build on something you both like, and you and at the end of 10 weeks there is something called investment committee where you pitch to the group, like the entire partners and from other locations too, and that's where you kind of show them all the work you've done so far, right? So within this 10 weeks, the biggest kind of focus is on traction and building. So what you want to show them, or what we were able to show them, is that hey, there is a lot of traction for what we are trying to build, and yeah, we essentially sold the product before we built it, right? Like
Okay.
we talked to a bunch of parking operators, and we showed them that there was a lot of interest from them in trying this. And in the case of software, I think you just build it and you get them to try. In the case of hardware, since it's more capital intensive, we showed them how it would, that there is interest, and they were ready to take a bet on us.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah,
So during that program, for you as a hardware play, you had to essentially go out and pitch the idea without a physical product,
right,
without an actual like robot to show people, but effectively you probably built some type of virtual
prototype,
model or
yeah,
something
yeah,
to say,
yeah,
hey, here's what it would look like, here's how it should work, and then you were bringing back kind of data from these parking lot operators to say to Antler and say, hey, we've got of the 100 people we talk to, 90 are interested at, at
something
certain
like that.
levels of this, and here's what we think we can generate as far as like revenue and all of that stuff. So that's kind of
Exactly,
how you
yeah,
pitched it to them.
yeah. There's like a, yeah, you need to write a memo where you clearly kind of articulate like the plan, like what kind of markets you're targeting, how can this be like a big business,
Yeah.
and yeah, things like that. And yeah, and it's a great place to be as the cohort, is because you have all of these very motivated, interesting people who are trying to build something, and you feel the pressure when you're there. Like every day
Mm.
people are shipping product, they are talking to customers, they are some are even like some even start selling it, they make revenue in the already in the cohort. So you kind of feel this pressure, and yeah, the goal is to get as much feedback from the customers as possible, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
what we
awesome.
did.
I would imagine the kind of that cohorted model of having people that are, you know, doing cool stuff, and you're trying to not necessarily compete with them, but also like if they're shipping a product or they're generating revenue, they're getting some excitement, you want to also kind of you feed off of that, right? So I think that's
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of the benefit of getting into that type of an accelerator or cohorted type program. With Antler, did they give, like, once you got kind of accepted into the program, did they give you any kind of startup capital to kind of start to build stuff, and
Yeah,
how did
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a very standard agreement where they fund you. I think it changes each time. I think it's typically 250K investment with committed follow-on funding,
Okay.
where they match a portion of your next raise up to 250K. But
Okay.
that changes sometimes. But essentially, they give you capital, and they more than their capital, they'll also like be with you in a sense. Like they'll we talk to the our kind of partner there and our contact there every week. We share progress and they try to help you with your go to market customer generation. Essentially, they've seen this play out hundreds of times or thousands of
Yep.
times in the past. So they have that collective knowledge. And since you, I think in our case, we are doing it for the first time, yeah, it's very helpful to have them as like a resource. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
because I'm sure they're opening
yeah,
doors for you, introducing
exactly.
you to people,
Yeah.
whether they're partners inside or other businesses that they've invested in that are maybe in a tangential space to help you kind of think through the process and all of
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they try to give you kind of more like their insight into what they've seen already work, not work. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously being a hardware play, it's more capital intensive, like you talked about. I had a hardware startup founder on a few episodes ago, and, his comment was, yeah, the barriers to entry are harder. But also that creates a competitive advantage because if you can get into this business or get past that initial entry kind of point to start building a product and shipping it and starting to generate revenue, it's harder for other people to follow on versus software. When you create a software, it can be just ripped off or replicated
Yeah.
instantly, right? And so you've got to be super aggressive on your marketing strategy. I guess, how did they kind of help you think about kind of your go to market now that you have this prototype? You've got a pilot customer, it sounds like. And so how do they talk about helping you ramp and scale post this kind of initial phase?
Yeah. So I think like in Antler, there's a lot of focus on go to market. Like more than anything, you need to make sure you have the right partner that can kind of help you scale. So in our case, since we are kind of working with businesses, the kind of focus early on was like find a partner who manage a ton of parking locations, where if you
Mm,
prove it in one location, that automatically gives you leverage to kind of repeat it again and again in multiple locations. And yeah, so that's been kind of the advice from them. And also there's a yeah, I mean, going back to like the piece about hardware being harder, yeah, that's true. Especially if you are going from zero to one, right?
yep.
Yeah, it's really hard to. I mean, it's taken a lot of effort to be where we are today, and it'll only get harder, which I know for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, it'll be harder, but yeah, there'll be an advantage where it's not just someone trying to build something very quickly. But again, that's also changing soon.
Yeah.
The reason is that I mean, compute has gotten so cheap right now that I mean, what we are seeing is that to deploy like models on the edge in like devices like ours has gotten very cheap. So your only barrier is actually building something very quickly. But yeah, you might need some capital for that. But I think the best thing for any startup or even for us to like find as much traction as possible and find as many paying customers as possible. That will be the best competitive advantage initially. And
Yeah, it's still pace to market, right? You still want to
yeah,
get there fast. You don't want to, now that you have some capital and all that, you don't want to take
yeah,
your time necessarily, but
right,
you
yeah,
definitely want to. And it's also an iterative process, right? So you want to
right,
get the prototype out. You want to get that because probably your prototype is typically bigger and more bulky than
exactly.
what your option
Original, the
2 and option
vision,
3 would
yeah,
be. So
yeah. The prototype is just to show that we've solved some of the technical kind of risk, like show that okay, this is what we can do, and with capital, we can make this better. But yeah, I think essentially these were all like kind of things you learn from a partner like Antler and in general building stuff.
yeah, have you or your partner or co-founder, have you guys ever been founders before, or is this your first
No,
venture?
first time, first rodeo, and yeah, yeah, it's exciting, but also a lot of unknowns. So yeah,
Yeah, I was going to ask
and
you like how now that you're in it for over a year, you went through the accelerator, you're kind of checking off some milestones right as you think about it. Um, has it been better, worse, more fun, less fun, harder, easier? Like what's been your kind of, if you look back to when you started, like based on your expectations, like how has your journey been so far?
yeah, I think like it's the way I've been thinking about it is like, I mean, when I was back in Antler, the only focus then was get customers and build. I mean, we had the grand vision, like which we want to build. Ultimately, we still have it, but the immediate focus was to raise capital from them. And then right after that, the next immediate focus was find this customer for a pilot. And now the next focus is build for the pilot. So it feels like each time the next step is there, it's much harder and it only gets harder. But also I think I guess like the bright side is, yeah, we get to dictate our own future and there is no one to delegate to. Uh, there is no handing off anything to anyone. If it needs to be done, you do it. So that comes with both like it feels rewarding, but at the same time, it's also that, yeah, it gives you flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Antler, like the way they are, is like they don't essentially dictate how you use the capital they give you. You still give them like you still keep them up to date on what you're doing and things like that, but they won't force you to do anything.
Hmm.
So that
Well,
way
yeah,
it's
I
been
think
good.
being an entrepreneur, there's pluses and minuses. Some people love it, some people hate it, right? But you do kind of get out of it what you put into it, right? So if you work, really really hard and put your nose to the grindstone, you can build a cool business.
Yeah.
How big is the company now? Like where are you at? Is it just you and your partner, and you've got some support? Like how is it all structured at
Yeah,
the moment?
two co-founders. We have few advisors part-time, and we have two contractors also.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so I think the model which I'm seeing more is as small of a team possible, better early on.
Yep.
Essentially, until you've actually proven that it works, and then you scale it, like add more people. But that's the model we are taking. Like use
Yeah.
as many contractors as we can for now. Keep the team size small, burn small, and yeah, go from there.
Yeah. How has I think you mentioned AI a little bit in kind of your initial conversation. Like how are you leveraging AI, whether it's in the product or kind of in the development of the product to help you ideate
Yeah.
faster? Maybe share a little bit about your AI kind of focus.
I mean, yeah, I spend pretty much every day with ChatGPT and Claude or some version of it. I hardly do anything without it, bro. That's
And are
how
you
it's
using
things
it
have
from like
changed.
a thought partner perspective, like asking it like, hey, here's what I'm thinking, or here's how I'm trying to approach this customer? Like are you prompting it in a way other than that's not just, hey, write a better email, but you're like, here's my problem that I'm trying to solve, and kind of like using it as a partner, a thought partner to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, so I think like two ways. One is, yeah, we are kind of building the product with an AI layer essentially.
Okay.
Like so, it focus. I mean, the I'll get to the other part about my personal use, but mainly the robot itself has lidar and camera, and essentially when it's going around in the parking lot, it is collecting a ton of data in the form of images and other data. So what we are doing is running it through an AI model and getting insights from that, such which are like which give you things like garage utilization, how many cars are there, how what is peak time, things like that, and also like it goes into security and other things which you can do. So essentially, we are taking all of this data, running it through models, and getting insights which we can share back to the parking operator and create this kind of tool set which they can use to reduce labor on site.
Mm,
So that's like using AI in the product itself, where on top of the EV charging, we can add software layer which is easier to deploy. On on the I mean, on the personal front, it's, yeah, from I need to write this sales proposal, I need to write this better email, and help me like help me make my operating kind of expense Excel sheet better. So it's pretty much the whole thing. Yeah, thought partner I think is the right word. What I see is like I'm using it to uh, make my kind of output better, like make everything go faster. Earlier, maybe I would have searched a lot, taken much longer. Now I just have I move at a faster speed, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it interesting as a as a solopreneur and having a small team. It's it's very helpful if you have the ability to just start talking to it, whether it's
Yes.
text
Yeah.
talking or actually talking to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of prompting it in a way where it's asking you thoughtful questions. It's thinking about, well, have you thought about this, or here are some things that you may have as gaps within your business plan or your marketing strategy or whatever
Right.
it is, because as a solopreneur or a small team, like, you may not be a go to market expert, but
Right.
if you prompt ChatGPT or Claude or one of these correctly, like, it will think like a go to market person.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's fairly fascinating.
You have the knowledge of the entire internet essentially, and you can talk in natural language, right? Yeah. To your point, just ask and you get feedback. And I think from there, it's still like a lot of how you change it to suit. But yeah, I think that's where in the future it's already a commodity in a way. It will become
Yeah.
more of a commodity, and your creativity slash your kind of what you add on top of it, like I don't know, the human wrapper, I guess, at
Yeah,
the end will be
I
the
think about it
differentiator.
like AI can get you like 60 to 70% of the way there, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have it write an email and then copy and paste it and just go. Like,
Right.
you need to
Yeah.
add that your own language or feel or touch or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It'll probably get to the point where it will get 90 to 100% there, but I think right now I still like to have a little bit of control over the machine, essentially.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
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 I guess as we kind of like teeter off to the end here, we were recording this in kind of mid to late May 2025. If we jumped on a podcast a year from now, what are some of the things that you would like to have done in that 12 months to come back and be like, hey, we've been successful because we done these few things.
Yeah. Like the milestones we'd like to hit were deploy at a minimum of two sites,
Okay.
starting with commercial parking, followed by fleets, and show that the end-to-end system works. So we've already approved some few things, so there's a few more we need to do, and so essentially showcase that you plug in this adapter and then the rest happens, and do it in a way where you can add at least 60 to 120 miles in one sitting to a
Mm-hmm.
customer, to an end consumer, and do it in like a real parking lot, not like a lab. Doing that twice for two different at least one or more customer types would be a big success for us. And yeah, I think coming back and the other side would have been successful if you had raised more capital and put that back to work by doing the next version of the product. So at the end of the day, yeah, we want to have this be in the hands of our customers and yeah, see it add value to them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's super interesting. I think are you guys thinking about deploying this back in Seattle where your kind of development group is, or trying to do it here in Austin, or it doesn't really matter, you're just trying to get a first customer and you'll go where they are?
The focus is to try and keep it in Seattle as much as we can. But yeah, it's the latter, I guess, is true. We'll go where the customer is. It's good if it's in Seattle. If not, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you've
Yeah.
got local presence there, and you can at
Yeah.
least
Yeah. Yeah.
be a little bit more controlled.
Yeah.
Got it. Very cool. Well, this has been
Yeah.
awesome, Madhav, to kind of learn about your story and all that stuff. We found out that we're almost neighbors here in
Yeah.
kind of North Austin,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool. As we kind of wrap up here, I want to kind of do how I end the podcast, how I do every episode, with a 3-pack of questions. So first question here: what's an influential book or podcast that you might recommend?
Yeah, I really, really like this book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman.
Okay.
It's essentially like tells you that if you think about it, in a human lifespan of 72 years, you have approximately 4,000 weeks to live.
Hmm.
It's it's not meant to be like a doomsday, like, oh, you'll die, but it's meant to kind of tell you that everything you do is a trade-off. And yeah, like if there's no, I don't think there's anything like work-life balance. There's only like trade-off. You either pick at your time of point of time in your life where you say this is the priority, and that the other thing will suffer. So it helps you come up with this idea that, yeah, like you have this weeks, and you either kind of think about it as like, oh, everything will eventually go away, or the other side, which they try to encourage us, like use it more productively to kind of think about how you make trade-offs, and there is no concept of like balance. Everything can't be in balance, especially if you're starting a company.
Yeah, I like that because it is a trade-off, and certain times you're like, well, if I'm doing this, I'm not doing something else, right? And so
Right.
sometimes that's
Yeah.
fine, but yeah, it's that's interesting. I might have to check that
Yeah,
out.
and also like there's no like endless. Yeah, like, there's no endless to-do list, right? Of course, like you can't get to everything in your to-do list, so it has to be like, okay, this it has to be very specific, and few things you do, and just don't do the other things. It's fine to not get to everything in your to-do list
Yeah.
because you have limited amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. We have a finite amount of time. It's the only resource that we can't make more of yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
AI will figure that out. Before we pass. But no, cool. I'll check that book out for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite thing to do outside of work.
I'm an outdoor person. I like to hike as much as possible. Not so in this heat in Austin, but
Yeah.
early on when it was cooler. But I'm a big fan of all the national parks.
Oh,
So
cool.
recently went to Bryce Canyon, loved it and really enjoyed it. But yeah, and also have an 8-month-old daughter, so
Oh, cool.
any free time goes to her.
Have you been down to Big Bend National Park?
Yes, yeah, I've been to Big Bend a few years ago, and yeah, really enjoyed it. But yeah,
Yeah, my wife and I went down there last year, I think it was.
yeah, do not recommend it in the summer, but other times
Yeah.
it's good.
When did we go down? I can't remember when we were down there exactly, but it wasn't too bad weather-wise. But the night sky is kind of incredible down there. It's like one of the
Yeah, yeah,
clearest skies in the world, or something like
yeah.
that.
It's
Really,
a
really
dark
impressive.
sky area. I think designated, meaning yeah, it's like so dark. You can see the Milky Way in the right
Yeah,
conditions. Yeah,
yeah. We were sitting at our Airbnb, and I was just looking up. I was like, "What is that? That is like you don't see that
yeah,
stuff here in Austin."
yeah,
So
yeah.
very cool. All right, last question here. Favorite vacation spot?
Yeah, I think like my favorite location spot would be anywhere in like the southwest of the US. Like this goes back to I went to Arches and I was really blown away by it, like
Okay.
Arches National Park. And I even how many other times I go to that region, there's already like new things to see. So yeah, I just love that entire region of Utah with all the parks, Bryce Canyon, all of that. So would be down to go back there anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was up in Moab for a conference last year, and that was pretty impressive, even though I wasn't there for very long.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Mata, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you sharing your story and talking us through everything. If people want to learn more about you, what you're up to, maybe they're here in Austin or they're up in Seattle, like what's the best way to get in touch with you?
yeah. I think just like find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's by my name, Madhav Ayygari, and it should come up. And also, yeah, you can just look at our uh, LinkedIn page, Inductive Robotics. So I'm pretty much I look at LinkedIn quite often, so you can reach out to me there. Yeah, and
Awesome.
also X.
That's how
Yeah,
we got connected was through
yeah,
LinkedIn. So
yeah,
it does work. He does respond.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Madhav, thank you very much. It was great to meet you and get to know more about your story. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. This is fun.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.